And good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Chalk Talk. I am your host, Kim Davis. Today is Tuesday, January the 24th of 2023. Welcome to Chalk Talk. As always, I'm super glad that you have joined me for this week's show. A lot of fun stuff to talk to. A great guest going to join us in the bottom of the hour. Kim Edwards-Williams. You hear me talk about I Love Jinka. We're going to talk about that and something else I think you'll find really fascinating about the whole food production business. Anyway, as always, before we get started, we've got to thank the people who make it possible for us to do this each and every week. The title sponsor for this month continues to be the World Youth Foundation. They're celebrating mentoring this month with a great event later in the week, because mentoring is obviously super important to be able to give back and pour in and do mentoring and volunteering with young people. And it doesn't have to always just be young people, but that mentor piece is super important. And also our collaboration with the African American Male Wellness Agency and the upcoming walk April 15th, right here in Houston, Texas, on the campus of Texas Southern University. So lots of exciting stuff to talk about as it relates to that event over the next few months. Also, you heard me mention Jinka. I love Jinka. It is a turmeric paste capsule, powder, vegan capsule, and it's all about reducing inflammation, right? It's kind of yucky out if you happen to be in Southeast Texas, which is where I am in Houston. And so if you've had some sort of little, stuffiness, achiness, inflammation, kind of respiratory stuff, it's tough to get rid of it because the weather just won't free you up. Well, here's a good thing. I Love Jinka is great for that. It's great to help with inflammation. You'll hear more about it later in the show. You can get it at I Love Jinka. And if you are in the Houston area, you can get it at HEB stores. Here's where you find it if you are going to HEB.
Here at HEB, in the Healthy Living Department of Probiotics, you can find Jinka 7 days a week.
Yeah. Look at that Jinka sale. Look at that Jinka.
And of course, one of the things many of us are doing as we start the new year is we're committing to be just at least a little bit healthier, right? Well, even if you're being healthy, and we know a huge part of that is what we put in our bodies. Food is 80% of everything that our bodies, of how our bodies respond. You still need some snacks, don't you? Well, the good news is there are some snacks with some great ingredients that taste amazing. It's Kimmy Treats corn. It's a vegan popcorn. I had somebody ask me last night, what makes it vegan? Well, there's no animal products, right? There's no butter. It's made with coconut oil and spices that you will see on the label, and not a bunch of fillers. You can get it if you're in Houston at Sunshine's Vegetarian Deli in the medical center area. But if you're not in Houston, or if you're across town and you're like, that's a long drive, go online to kimmytreats.com. You can also get your hand-whipped organic body butter. All right, so there's been a lot happening in the world of sports, right? There were some great games over the weekend in the divisional rounds of the NFL playoffs. So now the conference championships are set. In the NFC, it is the San Francisco 49ers who defeated the Cowboys. We're going to talk more about that. Going up against Jalen Hurts from Houston, Channel View, but we claim it as Houston. In the NFC, and the Philadelphia Eagles in the championship game for a chance to go to the Super Bowl in Arizona. In the AFC, it is Joe Burrow again and the Cincinnati Bengals taking on Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. right? This is the Chiefs' 5th straight year in the AFC Championship game. They lost last year to Joe Burrow and the Bengals. They also lost both times in regular season to Joe Burrow and the Bengals. And Patrick Mahomes has a high ankle sprain, all right? He finished the game on Sunday kind of limping, right? He was kind of limping. So he will play. It's just a matter of how effective will he be. But here's one of the things over the weekend. First of all, the Bills were defeated. There was video of Damar Hamlin at the stadium watching the game from a suite. And, of course, the sentiment with all that the Buffalo community has dealt with over the past year, the unfortunate racial shooting at the grocery store, and then, of course, Damar Hamlin having the cardiac event on the field during a game. You know, there was a sentiment, and a lot of folk were pulling for the Bills. It was not Josh Allen's finest hour. The Bills just didn't have enough, and were actually wound up being, kind of blown out. I mean, I think many of us thought that the game would be closer. It'd be a better game, but nevertheless, the conference championships are set for Sunday, with the winners in each game getting a trip to the Super Bowl for a chance at the World Championship, at the championship title. So, listen, I want to start talking about the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to get to the Houston Texans, and we're going to talk about the Texans Coaching Search. But I know that there are a lot of Cowboy fans who follow the show and who listen. And the conversation has been, should the Cowboys fire Mike McCarthy? So let me say this. That was a winnable game for the Cowboys. Although I will tell you, even last week when I was on Fox, I said I picked the 49ers, right? I thought the 49ers had the better team, and I just didn't think that the Cowboys would go into the Bay Area and win the game. It did not mean that the Cowboys didn't have a chance, and they definitely had an opportunity in the game to win, especially with how well the Cowboys defense played. It was the Cowboys offense that was a mess. Dak Prescott had two costly turnovers. And I don't know what happened at the end of the game. I don't know what that call was that Kellen Moore designed, or Mike McCarthy, whoever designed it. It looked crazy. And so here's the deal. Mike McCarthy is not the issue. I'm just saying, I don't think Mike McCarthy is the problem. And here's the next thing I'm going to say. And I'm going to show you a tweet. Let me share this screen. I don't understand this one bit. Okay, so here's a tweet that was posted by the Dallas Cowboys social media department. It says Dak Prescott gave away the ball twice in the narrow loss to the 49ers in a matchup the Cowboys had a chance to win if they didn't generate self-inflicted wounds. You may say, well, Kim, is that true? It is true. But he's on y'all's team. Like, your own social media department is tweeting that. Anyway, that's crazy. Let me remove that. And yes, Dak Prescott, he didn't play well. He played poorly. And the turnovers were costly. But for all of you Cowboy fans, I'm speaking more to you because I think that many of the rest of us are able to not be quite as emotional. So you want to run Dak off. Dak is not good enough to win a Super Bowl with. Well, let me say this. Look around the National Football League and be mindful of how difficult it is to get a franchise quarterback. Okay? Does it mean that does he have to be better? Absolutely. Like, he made mistakes this year. It was not his finest. He had a lot of interceptions for somebody who's in the franchise level quarterback. You expect better from Dak Prescott. No question about it. But is the answer to just get rid of him? Absolutely not. Now, does Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator, need to be better? Yeah, I think he does. And do you need some different weapons offensively? If you look at the teams that have advanced to the conference championships and you look at their rosters and you look at what each of those teams went and did in the offseason to get better, ask yourself, if you're a Cowboys fan, did your team do the same thing? I don't know. But I don't think the answer is to fire the coach. That's just so easy. Let's just fire the coach. It's Mike McCarthy. What did you win? 12 games the last couple of years. You got to the playoffs. You lost to the 49ers both years. Last year you lost in the wild card game. Was it the wild card game? That game was in Dallas or Arlington. This year you lost to them in San Francisco. Yep, you had a shot to win. Absolutely, Dak could have played better. He did not. But who are you going to get for quarterback? So do you stick with Dak? And here's the other question that's coming up. Oh, well, it's. I think he has one more year of guaranteed money on this contract. Do you extend him? Yeah, you extend him. And you go out and you draft a quarterback and you get somebody that you can bring up. Quarterbacks are not easy to find. Listen, I cover the Houston Texans. Take my word for it. They're not just growing on trees, quarterbacks that can come in and win. You may say, well, look what the 49ers quarterback did, and he's a rookie, and he's a third string. I get all of that. I'm saying when you have a quarterback, and no, Dak was not great, and Dak made some mistakes, I don't think you jump ship just that quickly. That's just me. I just think that it's emotional, and as some of the Cowboy fans can be. Hey, good morning, Jackie Harris. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in to Chalk Talk. I appreciate it. It's always good to have you here. And I think you all need to chill. Okay, you just need to chill because you could need a quarterback, and if you make the decision that Dak's not the guy, then I just want to know who is the guy. Who do you get? Who's that guy? All right. So, we're going to move on from talking about the Cowboys unless y'all have something to say. But I wanted to say that because I've been watching the communication. I've been watching the stories. I'm looking at Cowboys fans on TV smashing television sets and taking them out to the driveway and driving over that. What is wrong with y'all? Stop that. What is wrong with you? I mean, listen, your team could be the Houston Texans. That has been on a dysfunctional decline for the past several years. Not just these past 2 years, but for several years. They're going to turn it around. I believe that they are working to do that. And we will see as the coaching search moves on what that looks like. But, I'm just not really sure that if you are the Dallas Cowboys, the answer is to get rid of Dak. And I really don't think if you're the Cowboys organization, the answer is for your social media department to be calling out your quarterback like that. Oh my gosh. That's a level of craziness. I'm going to say that. And I'm just checking to make sure that I know that earlier today, Jerry Jones and his son Stephen, had canceled their weekly radio show, and there was all the hubbub about what that means. Is something happening in Dallas? I don't know, and I'm just checking to make sure I didn't miss anything while I've been on since I've been on the show. Okay, so here's what's happening. Texans are interviewing Giants offensive coordinator Mike Kafka for the second time on Wednesday, according to a league source. And go back here. The Texans will also conduct a second interview with Denver Broncos defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero on Wednesday, also per a league source. Now, the first round of interviews were done on Zoom, and now they are presumably bringing people into the building. It is in person, and they will interview. These interviews will take place with Cal McNair and Nick Caserio. Of course, the Broncos are also looking for a head coach, and they have requested a second interview with Sean Payton. I think that interview has also been scheduled. After the NFC Championship game, Texans can conduct second interviews with DeMeco Ryans, the defensive coordinator for the 49ers, and Jonathan Gannon, who are supposedly, according to sources, the leading candidates for their head coaching vacancy. Oh, it'll be interesting. Okay, it will be interesting to see what happens and which direction they go. Listen, I'm a Houstonian. Grew up on the Oilers, right? And then as a professional, cover the Oilers. Now I cover the Texans, and if you've listened to the show, you know I've covered the Texans since their inception. I was actually at the owners' meeting when Bob McNair was granted the franchise by the National Football League. So that would have been in 2000, because it was also during baseball season, and the Astros at that time, we were still in the National League, were in the playoffs, and playing the Braves. So it was a lot going on. We were in Atlanta at those meetings, and so I remember the beginning. Okay, I would like to see the Houston Texans organization be successful. I'm a Houstonian. I live here. They have been a bit dysfunctional on their football operations side. You know that I am not absolutely convinced that Nick Caserio is the guy to successfully complete this rebuild, but we will see. He's the guy that they have selected, and we're going to follow it, and we'll talk about it, and we'll see what happens. That is the update we have in terms of the Houston Texans coaching search. Good morning, Jacqueline Pierce. Welcome. It's always good to have you be a part of the show. Good morning, Sylvia. Good morning, Sunshine. My sister, Sylvia. And good morning, hey, Miss Denley, Grand Rising, my beautiful. Hey, I appreciate you, Gym Rat Diva sister. You're right about that. I did a 50-minute Peloton ride this morning with Robin Arzone. Woof! And then I did another 30 minutes of abs and stretching. So absolutely. And hey, good morning, Bobby. Welcome. It's always glad to have you all in the show. Thank you for being on Chalk Talk today. Listen. Let's do something. Let's talk about something positive in Texas, and more specifically in Houston. The Houston Rockets put an end to that skid. They'd lost 13 games in a row. It was getting real bleak around the Toyota Center and around that organization. And they won at home last night against Minnesota. The final was 119-114. Jalen Green in his second year, who has been not shooting well and playing great as of late. He's looked a bit, I'll say it, the word dejected a bit, and maybe that's not the right word, but he hasn't looked enthusiastic. And listen, here's one of the things for people who are, if you're a fan and you're saying, you're advocating to lose a lot of games so that you can get a higher draft pick, that weighs on especially on your young players, right? That weighs on them, and you start to get into dangerous territory of getting to a place that just a draft pick is not enough, right? So you've got to be able to build your roster, and once you get because they have such a young roster, so many young players, which I think is a bigger problem than a head coach. I mean, I know that there are people who say, "Oh, look, his rotation," but a lot of it is because these young guys, I don't want to call them kids, these young men, these young players don't know quite how to win at this level, and it's because they don't know how to play defense late. So what happens now is they're playing well, you're watching the game, they're up late, and you're like, oh no, here's the fourth quarter. And then you're just kind of clutching your pearls, wondering, is this going to be the game that they're able to sustain this lead and hold on to get a victory? And, you know, Bobby says he's a Houstonian also. And he says, I hate to see it, the Rockets need a new head coach. I know that is the thought of a lot of people. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that youth is a bigger factor than many of us realize. But it hasn't been fun to watch. It has not. So last night, Jalen Green had 42 points. Alperen Sengun had 21 points. Eric Gordon, 14. Tyree Eason, who started, had 11 points. KJ Martin had 6. Off the bench, you had Jayshawn Tate, who quite frankly was a beast with 11 points in 22 minutes. And then Garrison Matthews with 10 points in 28 minutes. So it was a fun game to watch. It's always fun when the team that you're covering or that you're hoping that you're hoping has success wins. That's so much more fun than obviously games where they are just continuing this perpetual losing streak. So they won a game last night. They've got 2 home games this week. They play tomorrow night at home against the Wizards, and then they play Thursday night at home against the Cavaliers. Not sure I'll make tomorrow night's game because I will be covering the Harris County Sports, the Houston Sports Awards. Hey, good morning, Carolyn. I hope that you're doing well out west. Stay safe and dry, my friend. But kudos to the Houston Rockets for getting back in the win column. Here's their schedule. Let's check in with what they're doing. So they are, as I said, at home tomorrow against Washington. They have a back-to-back. They play Cleveland at home on Thursday. Cleveland is playing really well. They're 29-19. The Wizards, not so much. They're 20-26, so it's still they're under 500, but they clearly have a better record than the Rockets, who now are 11-26. Then they go on the road Saturday to Detroit. They're off. They're a few days off. They come back home in a week to play OKC, then Toronto before going on the road again. So the schedule kind of lightens up for them after the back-to-back. After they play Wednesday and Thursday, they get a day off. Then they play on Saturday. Then they've got 3 days off. They don't get that a lot, which gives the coaching staff a chance to actually have some practices. Because when you're playing so many games back-to-back, it is... it's difficult to instill things or coach or teach and do those things that you really need to do, especially with the with them. But they got to win. Hopefully they can win again tomorrow and get on a little bit of a stretch, win a couple games at home and get on the road. But just the key for them is to not get into losing streaks, right? They're not going to all of a sudden be headed for the play-in round. But at the beginning of the season, I thought they could win. We did an over/under on Channel 11 when I was on Sports Extra when the season was starting, and it said the number I think that Vegas had was 23 as an over/under. I thought they could win 23 games. They've won 11. We're not quite at the All-Star break, although we are approaching it, which kind of signifies mid-season. They need 12 more wins, right, to make me look genius. Not about me, but clearly they need to string together a few wins in a row, and we're hoping that they do. All right, so speaking of basketball, of course, the Final Four, the NCAA championship is coming to Houston. The road to the Final Four goes through Houston. Those games will be played at NRG Stadium. And there's a lot that goes into it, right? There's a lot that goes into it. It's not just the games, the semifinal game and the championship game. That's what most people know in other places. But when those games come to your city, there's a lot more that happens that fans can participate in. And so before I talk about that, I did also want to let you hear from Dan Gavitt, right? Excuse me. Who is with the NCAA. He is, hang on a second. I just got a notification, and I just want to make sure that I don't miss anything while we're talking. I don't want Jerry Jones to do something or a coach to get hired that I didn't know about. And so, yeah, I wanted to make sure that you got to just be so many places at one time, and we will do that. Okay. So last week, the Final Four, the NCAA staff and the local organizing committee had kind of unveiled for the city all of the other things that will be happening Final Four weekend. Dan Gavitt, who is the senior vice president of basketball for the NCAA, was in town, and he talked about a few things. He talked about Houston as a market, and then he talked about the selection process. Here's Dan Gavitt talking about Houston as a host, and Houston recently has hosted the Final Four. Has hosted 2 Final Fours in recent years. But here's what he says about Houston.
Having been at both of those Final Fours, Houston has just gotten better and better as a site. Always good, but now the downtown area being even more developed, more hotels. We can have all 4 teams downtown rather than out at Galleria. The footprint for the music festival, for Fan Fest at the renovated convention center, it just sets up to be a great footprint and experience for fans that will be able to walk and experience all that's great about downtown Houston, and then take the light rail or get out to the NRG Stadium very easily for the competition and things that go on game days.
Senior vice president of basketball, and listen, if you're not from Houston, if you're not in Houston, you may not recognize how the city has really evolved. He talked about the downtown area. That's where all the teams will stay. The games will be played at NRG Stadium, which is obviously out, on the NRG complex. But the city continues to grow and evolve, and that's, as a Houstonian, I'm proud of that. And it creates opportunities to host events like this. Of course, next year in January, the NCAA football championship will be in Houston at NRG Stadium. And in 2026, Houston will be one of the hosts for the World Cup. Doesn't get any bigger than that. Here's Dan Gavitt talking about the selection process. And I just wanted to have him weigh in on that, because sometimes people don't really understand or know what the process is. And he goes through what happens. You talked about the seedings and the brackets. People are always really curious about the process. Can you kind of an overview of just remind us of that process and what goes into it?
Sure. Well, it's truly a season-long process. There are 12 members of the men's basketball committee, and they're each assigned to several conferences to monitor. And they start watching games and monitoring those teams the very first day of the season all the way until Selection Sunday in March. So they come to the selection seating bracket process, which is very much a voting process. Very well informed about what teams have had seasons that are worthy of inclusion to the men's basketball championship. Of course, there's 2 different ways to get in. There's automatic qualifiers to win that conference tournament. There's 32 of them, and then there's 36 at-large teams, and that's the hard part of the committee's job, to decide who those 36 best teams are that didn't win their conference tournament.
All right, that's Dan Gavitt, and if you're kind of seeing some sketchy stuff, we've got some bad weather in Houston, and that always affects anything that has to do with technology. But we are still here. That was Dan Gavitt. I'm going to let you now hear from Chris Reynolds, who is the NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Committee Chairman. And I asked him to talk about some of the other things, because the reality is most people in Houston won't have an opportunity to go to the games. Like, there'll be people from Houston that obviously get tickets, but in terms of Houstonians and fans have access to, here is Chris Reynolds talking a bit about that. That you want Houstonians to know about some of the ancillary events happening that weekend?
Yeah, there's pages worth of things to do.
Right.
It blows my mind as I just looked at the list. Because when people think of the Final Four, they just think about the games, right? But as we experience here, the reading that the students are doing, the young people, 21 million minutes of reading, and how that's going to impact their life. The impacts that will be had in this facility when the renovations take place will be terrific, and it's great to see that there'll be places like this that will be benefited because the Final Four is in Houston, to be able to touch people that, they may not even go to the game, but they'll be able to come to the Blue Triangle, be able to enjoy this facility in a renovated state. But I got pages of the events. The Fan Fest, there's going to be a music fest, there's going to be what they call the Reese's Final Four Friday, where fans can come and they can watch the teams practice. There's going to be a game where they'll have senior student athletes from various schools around the country that'll play a game on that Friday as well. There's going to be a Nissan tailgate, and so if you're going to go to the game, you can stop at the tailgate before. They have something called the men's basketball Final Four dribble, and so there'll be like a mile-long walk where the kids will be dribbling their basketball. But what this event really showed me is that this is all about the young people and being able to get them engaged, using the Final Four to get kids to read, right? And giving some incentive to read, to me, is brilliant. Houston has done it in a first-class manner, and I really want to acknowledge the leadership of this community for the attention to detail to all of these different activities. It's 5-star.
So that is some of what is happening in and around Final Four weekend. There's a lot going on, and some of those things are free. Like you can watch practices, that's free. There's just a number of things that you can be involved with that for fans, especially for young people. And I want to go back to, this event was held at the Blue Triangle on McGowan in the heart of 3rd Ward. And one of the things they're going to do is, when they go into cities, they like to leave some sort of a legacy. I'm calling it that because when I worked for Super Bowl, that's what we called it. But, a project to leave an imprint on the community that's positive. And so they are renovating the Blue Triangle. So for me, that was super exciting because as a child in Houston, growing up in Houston, I went to the Blue Triangle, right? I went to the Blue Triangle. And so when I went there last week, I'm like, this gym looks the same as it did back in the day. And I think it's great that the Final Four is, the NCAA is going to renovate it. I talked to the executive director, who is one of the women that helped to save that building. It used to be the Blue Triangle Y when I went there. And then there was a point when it was in danger of being shut down and maybe the land being sold. And there were a group of women, it's always the women, let me just say that pooled and purchased this so that building, that community presence that had meant so much in 3rd Ward would continue to exist. And that she gets to see what's happening now was really exciting. So I got a chance to meet her, not the executive director, but to meet one of the women who really was instrumental in keeping this project, keeping this Blue Triangle alive and well in the Tray, right? The Tray is an integral part of the fabric of Houston and the culture of Houston. So that was fun and good. Dorita Hatchett, who I know on the committee, is a community person. I forget her official title, but a lot of that has to do with people like Dorita being involved in connecting to the right stakeholders and making sure that the right places are recognized and get some benefit. Marcus Davis, good morning. He said, I went to the Blue Triangle. He said he old. I'm not old, brother. Marcus Davis, y'all know that's my brother from another mother. I am just seasoned. And no wonder you and I hit it off so well, because all the cool people went to the Blue, right? So it's cool that they are doing some stuff in the neighborhood. And the HBU All-Star Game is the same time now. Which is happening that same weekend. That's not an official Final Four event, but that's okay, because hopefully they get some play and people go over and see it, because HBCU basketball is fun. In fact, this weekend, it is Prairie View A&M University will be traveling to take on the Tigers at Texas Southern University. That game is Saturday. I believe the tip is at 5 p.m. I plan on being in the house for that game. Earlier in the day, I will likely go over to Rice. Rice has a home game. I've been covering Rice a bit. So, basketball's fun, right? Basketball's fun. I want to let you hear from head coach Stephen Silas, who I know a lot of folks want to run out. Look at Jonathan Branch. He said Bobby Scott. No, Jonathan, I guess you're talking about, the firing of, suggesting that maybe the coach needs to go. I've shared with you, I think that the team is super young, right? The team is really young. I'm going to let you hear from Stephen Silas after last night's win. Let me. Technology is really amazing. And we're still waiting for Kim. She will be joining us momentarily. Let's let you hear from Stephen Silas.
Finally breaking the streak.
Feels good. I mean, the guys played great. I'm just happy for them, really. Happy for the effort that we gave, the resilience that we showed. When we were up 10, they cut it to 3, and that's the time, right? That's the time that we've been struggling with. So we stayed in the game and kept fighting. And obviously, Jalen and Alfie were really, really good, but it was everybody. It was everybody. He in the second half was great. KT, his minutes were really good. Targets and big plays. You look at KJ, his line isn't spectacular at all. 6.7 rebounds, but he's a plus 22 when he's on the floor. So, just a good team win.
What was different about Jalen tonight?
He was aggressive for sure. He was decisive, I would say. There were times previously where he was kind of indecisive as far as what coverage they were playing him or what kind of defense they were playing, and he was just making quick decisions and getting to his spots.
You talk about the quick decisions that he made. Would you say that this might have been the most focused you ever seen Jalen? Seemed like he came out with like a different demeanor.
He did. He was ready for tonight, and it was time for us to really just buckle down and have a focused game for 48 minutes, and he was the leader of that tonight. But there was just a bunch of guys who were super, super focused tonight, and you think about this game compared to the last game, we still turned it over a bunch of times. We still didn't make enough free throws, but it was the mental fortitude that we showed to win
it. Back in such a big way.
Okay, so that was Stephen Silas after the game last night. And listen, it was a big... At this point, any win for this Rockets team is a big win. They've just got to get in the habit of winning. They've got to get over the hump when they are up in the fourth quarter. First of all, they can't get down big early, right? They've been doing much better about that. But where they've struggled is late in games, being able to sustain a lead. And I know that, some people are like, man, it can't just be youth. But a lot of it is youth. Defense at this level is different. And remember, many of these guys are 1 or 2 years, out of college, if that's the case, or out of high school, then a year in the G League. This is a whole different game. And here's something I like to remind people. Kobe Bryant was the best, right? He's a GOAT for some. He was amazing. He came out of high school. But when did Kobe Bryant really start to have some success as an NBA player? Third, I would say maybe his fourth season. So while these young players are not going to college and they're coming to the league earlier, I don't have any problem with that. But the development, LeBron is not the norm. That he came in and was effective and made an impact so soon, that's not typically the case. It takes them a while to grow into, one, their bodies, to get somebody, right? And to grow into what it takes to be an NBA player, especially defensively. So what happens is late in games oftentimes, other teams know we can outlast these young guys because they get a little flustered and don't know what to do late. And I know you can say maybe it's coaching. I just believe that a lot of it is youth, right? A lot of it is youth. I also want to let you hear from Jalen Green, who, as I mentioned, he has been struggling lately. I think like I said, this whole losing thing, it weighs on players, especially younger players. And I wanted to let you hear from Jalen after the game last night.
Jump on the game, not to talk to Stephen Silas, practice and then career high. How was these last 48 hours?
I mean, obviously I was in my head a little bit after the 10-point game, but I mean, we had another one coming up today in shoot around. Coach got on us, just for not having like our mind in shoot around. Putting in some plays to help the double team, and me and him went over film before, so just broke that down. Was trying to see like what I could do better coming off the double team, how to get my guys involved better, and how to get the ball back in my hands after the blitz.
Saying you were in your head, is that something that's ever happened to you early in your basketball career?
All the time.
How do you handle that when it does happen?
I don't know. Kind of just be around my teammates. Hang out with Gup, Tate, Scoop, KJ. Being around those guys kind of helped me. And obviously my people at home too. Talk to them on the phone about what I could do better. But I learned last year that, you got to have that next game, next shot mentality. So that kind of plays a part into it too, to help me get over what game I just had.
So that was Jalen Green talking about last night and having that next game, next shot mentality. Marcus makes a great point. He says, does youth not include the coach? Are you saying that because the coach is young or young in his career? And if so, you make a good point. This is Stephen Silas' first time as a head coach in the NBA. He's got a lot of coaching experience, but it's his first time as a head coach in the NBA. And it's interesting if you think about when Stephen Silas was offered the job, accepted the job. He came to Houston as a head coach who'd be coaching a couple of former MVPs, and Russell Westbrook and also James Harden. And then, of course, we know what happened. Russell Westbrook was like, deuces, I'm out, I'm not doing this. And then shortly thereafter, the same with James. So you go from being a team that is a perennial playoff contender to a lottery team. And so, yeah, it's been a learning experience, not only, I'm sure, for the young players, but for Coach Silas as well. And let me say this, because I've had a lot of you reach out to me and say, Kim, do you think James Harden is coming back to Houston? Absolutely not. I don't see it. I think for James, it's probably a try to get a better or longer contract ploy, but he's not coming back. He's not coming back here. And listen, I respect Rafael Stone. But if he were to make some deal and bring James Harden back, I'd have to be like, okay, what just happened? What are you doing? I just don't see it. Marcus is not a James Harden fan. He said he needed to go. And then he says in all caps, we don't want him in the H. I'm going to let y'all read that yourself. So James Harden would be the worst thing you could put with this young team. It would just... I can't even say anymore how that would be awful. But I also don't believe he even really wants to come here, right? If you wanted to leave because you were trying to win a championship, adding James Harden to the roster doesn't make you a championship team. He's playing with Joel Embiid, like arguably the best, or definitely one of the best centers in the league, one of the best big men. So there's no reason to think that putting James Harden back in with this roster is going to make this team a contender. It's just going to be drama, and he's going to be a bad influence. Marcus says Harden equals 0 rings. That's right. And if you followed my show over the years, I've said I don't think you win with him. Not a championship, because I'm not convinced that he's got a championship mindset, right? I just am not. So, listen, Bobby's right. Need some seasoned vets for the youth on this team. They do. It's not Eric Gordon, right? Eric Gordon has kind of had one foot out the door. He wants to be out. He wants to be on a team that's a contender. And so that's the challenge. But so this offseason will be interesting to see what Rafael does in terms of who he brings in, because they do have to get that veteran piece, that leadership, and then we'll go see where they end up in the draft, right? Because even though they have the worst record, they will not. You still gotta, put your name in a hat, right? And hope that you draw the right ball. So yeah, they need a veteran point guard. I could not agree more. I like KPJ. I think that it's easy for fans to get caught up in the numbers and his stat line, and he can put up numbers. But in terms of really what you need to run the floor, right? It's a veteran point guard. I think Ty Washington down the road will be the one. But right now, I think Marcus is right, which is kind of tough to say. I've said that a couple times today, right? Marcus is right, but that's because he went to the blue triangle. Why? I get it now. Definitely needs KPJ leads the league in turnovers. I mean, he's gotten better, but that's not, and he's worked at the position, but, and I tend to think that Raphael knows Stone, the general manager, he's not the long-term answer. When they gave him that contract, which was, he felt good about it, everybody's happy. It was a huge step for him just because of kind of how the tumultuous start he had to his career in Cleveland. But there's not a lot of guaranteed money. So if they want to move on from KPJ this offseason, it's not going to be costly for them to do that. They've got to, I do think they need a veteran point guard who can run, who can be the quarterback of the team, right? That's super, super important. And I agree, it's probably not KPJ. And when he is not in the lineup, you're like, oh, they miss him just because of who's going to run point. But I'm trying to think of the player from last year that his name escapes me that did a great job as a point guard, a veteran. Not John Wall. And John Wall, no, he's wrong for those comments he made, but I'm not even going to go there. In fact, our guest is here. We're going to round out today's show with I like to call this segment the big interview. You've heard me talk a lot about I Love Jinka on this show, and you've heard me talk about Kim Edwards-Williams and her husband LJ Williams and just the work they do. And look, they've been great supporters of not only Chalk Talk, but the KD Company and me personally. So they are my people, and I think she's ready to come in now. I'm going to add her up. Nope, not yet. And she's got her new little fancy background she wants to make sure that we see. I saw it for the first time in person the other day. And let me bring my sister in. Good morning, Kim. Welcome to Chalk Talk.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
I'm looking at I see what you did there. I like it. You did good.
This is my first virtual unveiling.
Well, I appreciate it, and I am glad that you were able to do that on Chalk Talk. So listen, Kim, I wanted to talk about a couple things. I Love Jinka continues to roll along. I want you to kind of give us an update. I mean, I'm always talking on the show because obviously you're a sponsor and I run the spots on the show. But just the growth that you've seen, what's the main thing people should know about I Love Jinka, and what's new with you guys?
Thank you, Kim. Thanks for having me. I always appreciate listening to your lives, of course, and so it's always a gift when I can jump on. Jinka it's a dream come true. It just really is. It's a dream manifested and it's coming true, and it's helping so many people, Kim. But what we're talking about, we have a product that is a mix of just 8 roots and herbs that our ancestors left here for us for this purpose. And those herbs are helping to reduce inflammation. We're growing in HEB. We are adding a new vendor next month, February, a new retailer that will be selling Jinka, and that is the military. Will be on the Shop Exchange, shopmyexchange.com website. And we'll also be on 30 Air Force bases in their exchange. And so that is like crazy exciting, and we're learning so much. It's been cool. But the biggest part about all this literally is being able to merge our passion of working and helping and sharing with this product that is genuinely changing people's lives.
How do you said the military, but I want to go back to that because that's such a huge audience, right? A huge audience of people who could really benefit from it. But, how does that even happen? Like, does that take a long time? I mean, whoever thinks about, hey, I should be in the military. I should have my product there.
Yeah, I can tell you what it takes is being prepared. What it takes is our product works. Our product is good. It's helping. And so we actually had a client that was using the product that shared it with someone in the military. And they were like, this is amazing. This is changing my mom's life. How can we share it with our soldiers? And so we're really excited to be able to share this product that we know is working with a population that has so many needs for it.
So we talk a lot here about if you happen to be in the Houston area or Southeast Texas, you can go to HEB. And I'm also always reminding people that you can get it wherever you are at ilovejinka.com. But one of the things, Kim, that I've gotten a chance to get a better understanding of in this process with you is this whole piece about products. It's a whole nother world, right? And I don't think that most of us, as we go in stores and we get things, or maybe we're making our own things, have any idea of the process about getting products places, but also the power that it is, like that we need to be creating stuff. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. One, I like us to just start with the fact that we created most things that are in grocery stores. And if most of us looked in our refrigerator right now, you have some kind of salad dressing that you've made, some kind of gravy, some kind of seasoned mix that you just know about, and your family loves your key lime pie, and we want you to make the broccoli and rice for Thanksgiving. We have those products, and we have the best of those products. And so what we're learning, being in this space, we for sure want to share, and we're creating a lane where we can share this with really serious people. But our goal is to share how, number one, we're selling a product that could potentially go in someone's life monthly, right? Or your product may be weekly, or it's the quantity in products. And if we look at it, one of the biggest company in the world right now is Amazon. And what do? They move products that aren't theirs until now. They're creating more after they see the creator create one, and then they kind of do one. But ultimately, it's products, y'all. And so I would love people to just kind of, take inventory of your life and the things that you may have curated over the years, whether it was a baby diaper rash cream or, all the things that we do, the cough syrup, the things that we just take advantage, it just goes over our head that this is something real and it could potentially help someone else. We definitely want to share how this can change an entire family for years and years to come with others.
As we continue to talk about whether or not we're headed to a recession, and whether people are employed but maybe they're underemployed in terms of financially what they can do, and listen, you and I talk all the time. Not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, really can. I know you think everybody can, but somebody got to do the work, right? And I get it.
You knew what I was thinking.
I know you were thinking because I know we talk about this all the time. But there are real opportunities, and there's power in producing something. And as a community of people, we used to make a whole lot more stuff, right? And so I want us to keep having a conversation about the opportunity that exists for us to be creators, and for us to play in this space that is financially huge.
It's huge. And we're thankful. We're on the platforms we're on. We're on our website. We're in HEB, and we'll be in the military. But y'all, there are over 40,000 retailers here just in the United States that are available to sell our product and yours. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the big box stores.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many avenues in, just natural stores that are family owned. I have right now a list of 300 of those. It's so many spaces. You don't have to go to Target with this thing. So I can talk about this all day. So
I think it's a lane, and I do want to, and I'm encouraging you to talk about it more. I think it's important, and here's the thing. I mean, you and LJ you are self-taught. Like, you learned it yourself. I've learned a lot of it because I'm, friends and also, business partners and with you guys, but or business collaborators or whatever you want to call it. But it's a lot to it. And so the key is to connect with somebody who knows it, right? Don't expect, I'm going to say this, you don't have to. Don't expect the retailers to teach it to you, because that's not how it works.
No. 100%. They are not interested in teaching you this. So it's definitely a learning curve. We've been doing our product this is going on the 8th year. We've been in HEB, this is going on the 3rd year. And so we went from, standing outside at Breakfast Club to HEB, right? And so there's a huge learning curve there. And I definitely came in thinking that HEB was going to have a consultant for me to hang out with, which was not the case. So, but I've been able to create that network. I'm finding people that have been in the retail industry, because the grocery industry in particular has a lot of lifetime members, a lot of lifetime workers and employees. And so I've met some amazing people in this industry that have just taught me. Hey, what's up, Marcus is in the building, that have just taught us, right? And we're just getting game. So definitely find a mentor. And today I say, pay for you a mentor.
Right.
I'm not saying pay for you a coach, because the word coach is a whole nother thing right now. So I don't want to put that on nobody. But I would say find someone that values their time and will put a price on sharing it with you. Just because everyone's busy.
Awesome. What a great way to wind out, to wrap up today's show. I want to, we're going to have these kind of conversations. I can always get my good friends, my Jinka friends, Kim and LJ, but with other people, because I think this information is important. And so, the name of the show is Chalk Talk, more than just sports. And so we want to talk about things that can teach, help, empower, do something, right? And so you being here is always that. I'm excited about 2023 and beyond for I Love Jinka, this military piece. And here's the thing, y'all, don't expect it to happen overnight. I know personally that they've been working on this for almost a year.
Oh, yeah.
It's a process.
It's been a year. It's been a little over a year.
Right.
It definitely is a process.
Right.
People want to get the information and be in HEB tomorrow, and that's just not how it works. And so let's skip that whole mindset. And if I can help, let me know.
All right, Kim Edwards-Williams.
Let me say one thing. I was talking about it earlier today, that I was going to have to do a live about this, but I could just share it here.
Absolutely.
We've kind of been passing it back and forth. I would just share with people to Google Chat GPT. Google that and figure it out. We can get back later and talk about it, but we really need to incorporate the AI conversation in business and in our small Black businesses right now, for sure.
So I put it in the chat. It's Chat GPT, this AI piece in terms of being able to for information, if you're creating content, if you're writing and you get stuck and you can't hire one of us, do some of it yourself. Like, here's the thing, now there's so many options, and Bobby says AI is the bomb. Absolutely, it's a resource, and that's one of the things that I'm excited that you can always get when you come to Chalk Talk. You'll find out what's happening in the world of sports, you'll find out what's happening in the culture, and you get a resource. So you've learned about Jinka, and now you know to go check out ChatGPT. All right, thank you, Kim Edwards-Williams. I will see you soon. And remember, if you guys are looking for Jinka and you're looking at HEB, this is where you can find it.
Here at HEB, in the Healthy Living Department of Probiotics, you can find Jinka 7 days a week.
Yep. Look at a Jinka sale. Look at that. Jinka.
Love it. All right, remember everybody, do something kind for yourself and do something kind for somebody else. I will see you next Tuesday on, I keep wanting to say Beyond the Headlines. I don't know what that's about. That's the show I hosted when I worked at Channel 2.
Well, you know me, it sounds like a book. It makes
It sounds like a book. We'll see you next time. Do something kind for yourself and something kind for somebody else. Get you some Jinka. I'll see you Tuesday. Peace.